present a counter to that? The fact that Xi Jinping didn't come to Delhi now makes it very difficult for Prime Minister Modi to go to Beijing. If nothing changes, Depsang, Demchok remain the way they are. Can the Prime Minister go to Beijing? So what happens next? They didn't play the role of spoiler, but that's just the bare minimum expectation. But it does suggest that at the highest levels in acknowledgement that things between India and China are really amiss at this moment.
No doubt about that. See, in any multilateral gathering, the really interaction for a host is at two levels. One is at the bilateral, and bilateral issues come to the fore. And one are the multilateral, whichever organization, whether it is BRICS or SCO, it has its own agenda, its own priorities, its own ambitions, goals, objectives. Xi Jinping's not coming here clearly showed that India-China relations are frozen and nothing was expected to move forward. So he rightly decided that let us not raise expectations. And we saw very clearly Johannesburg, very brief interaction in the BRICS, but then both sides saying who called the meeting first and all that. So the relations are not normal. It's very clearly, publicly, repeatedly or acknowledged by our foreign minister. But the other part is the multilateral part. And there, G20, after all, China is the second largest economy in the world. G20's main purpose is financial, economic, progress, development. And those
but there is a pushback, Rajiv Dogra, against China on the issue, for example, of that corridor, India, Mid East, Europe corridor. All of this is in some senses pushing back against the Belt and Road Initiative that Beijing's been pushing so aggressively for so long.
Well, there's no doubt that China must be doing a rethink on this entire episode.
Why do you think they're rethinking?
Because the international opinion had turned against Xi not coming here. That is one of the reasons why they have given in to
but
the
maybe
extent
they thought it through and they don't care and there's no need to rethink from their perspective.
No, I don't think they would be so blasé about it. The fact is that even China cannot take on the world. It can take on America. It can make American ministers come there and bow down to them.
But maybe their calculation is they want to build up BRICS, expand the BRICS, make their own G20 kind of G7 alliance. Like, this is our own, this is our party. This is what we will build. Now, we can't really do much business with the US.
Rahul, I have been associated with BRICS from its beginning. And all I can say that despite it becoming 11, it is still BRICS. The mortar is missing. So that's a long way off. But coming back to China, I think first there were conspiracy theories that he stayed away because he was scolded by the party elders at the annual meeting. That has been demolished now. Then there was this theory that he wanted to send a message that without China you can't move ahead. That again has proved wrong because they have now come down and gone with the agreement.
No, but has China conceded in the agreement or has the Western world? The general media commentaries, the Western world is the one which has compromised to ensure that a Delhi declaration came through.
That's the Guardian's view of today.
That's by and large the world view at the moment. Europe and America have conceded far more than the Chinese and the Russians.
But I don't think that is correct. That's a knee-jerk reaction by some correspondents who are generally biased. In fact, I've tweeted about it, that some of them are malicious. The Guardian, in fact, the entire report.
How is it? They've gone against the European view on Ukraine, and the American view is not represented in the Delhi Declaration. It's much closer to the view expressed by the global South in a way, that you can't single out Russia in the way the Western world has done.
Well, firstly, you can't have the sky and the earth all in your pocket. You have to concede somewhere in the international negotiations. And the wisdom was that without naming Russia, if you talked about the nuclear issue, if you talked about the territorial aggression, then you don't have to put a stamp of Russia on the document. So I think.
So what have the Chinese conceded?
Chinese have conceded, from the general impression that they were the spoilers, they were the roadblocks on every part of the document. Today, they have gone along with the entire document. So either don't get it advertised that you are the villain of the piece, and then you fall flat on your face. So, which is exactly
You
what
see,
was happening.
their argument is that we never projected ourselves as the villain. The Americans said the Chinese should not obstruct. The statement came from the Americans. The Chinese will turn around today and say that, look, we are actually, and Rahul has a point, many believe that the Chinese actually want global leadership through organizations like BRICS, which they can control far more than the G20. They will invest much more in the years ahead, possibly in building BRICS than in building G20 or G21.
As I said, the motor is missing, and that's the essential part for any BRICS. But the other thing is, China may want anything. There is also a counter move by USA and like-minded countries to strengthen organizations like World Bank and so on,
Right.
so that there is more representation of countries like India and other developing world.
Sure.
So China is not the only one who's setting the rules of the world. Okay. There are well-established rules of the world post-1945.
We have some more images of Rishi Sunak at the Akshardham temple as they are going around looking at different parts. This happened earlier this morning, and as I told our viewers, we will have Harsh Shringla, one of the heroes of India's G20 team, the chief coordinator, former foreign secretary. He'll be joining us in a few minutes from now. They're just setting up for that. But these are images from the Akshardham temple, Akshardham Murti, and you've got Rishi Sunak there walking around, even though it's raining there, nange pao.
That's a lovely image again. Husband and wife with an umbrella. It's a good classic Indian image that will again go viral, I'm sure, across
I'm
the
wondering
world.
what they're making of all of this in Britain. You know, in India, all of this is smashing the internet. No doubt about it.
No, I think every time you go to London, you see India as the flavor of the season. Go anywhere in England, and it is across new industries. You go to I was at the India-Australia Test match in London, and a friend of mine, British friend, took me to one of the boxes where all the private equity guys and the bankers are sitting. Over half the people sitting were top Indian bankers living in Britain in top positions in different commercial organizations, corporate organizations in Britain. India is the flavor of the season. We've earned our right in a way to have a sense of Indians being a major influence on what's happening in that country. And therefore, I think people in England will buy these pictures. This is great for any major English newspaper tomorrow to have as a front page picture, across.
And what does White Britain think of this?
I think, look, all polls seem to suggest that's not a factor at all at the moment in any English poll. It is the state of the economy. If Rishi Sunak can get Britain back on track.
But he doesn't have enough time to do that.
He's got 12 months. He's got 12 months to get it back on track. If he can get it back on track, he's got every chance. But I don't think his Indian origins are an issue at all in any election in England. In fact, if anything, because multiculturalism is becoming increasingly the flavor of the season, you're seeing a pushback even among the Brexiteers. If you look at Boris Johnson rode on the power of Brexit. Rishi Sunak supported of Boris Johnson on Brexit, but you're seeing now he too is nuancing his position. Then you're seeing the Brexiteers finding themselves in a more difficult position and dare I say, a new Britain. And these images, Rahul, are wonderful. They will not just break the net. I think they will be seen as symbols of social inclusion in Britain as well.
But it speaks about Indian politics as well. Can we have somebody so different from the majority becoming Prime Minister of India? Would that be welcome? So I think there are questions there as well.
Rahul, what are you hinting at?
No, I'm just saying it's tough.
Mrs. Gandhi was once almost at the verge of becoming the Prime Minister.
But there would have been a pushback. I mean, this is not the time to get into that, but if she had chosen to be Prime Minister, there would have been a strong pushback.
No, there was. I mean, let's be honest. Sonia Gandhi's foreign origins was a major issue in that 2004 election and the build-up. I don't think Rishi Sunak's Indian origins at any stage were a major issue. There may have been a section of conservative backbenchers and a group of people, more extreme views who would have, but the majority of people in Britain, whatever their opposition was, had nothing to do with the color of Rishi Sunak's skin. What I really think his message is, as I said earlier, that he will have these images here, he'll go back, he will celebrate Christmas. And there will be images of Rishi Sunak celebrating Christmas with the same fervor that he celebrates possibly Diwali. And I think that will be a message that goes out, that if you are a Prime Minister of a multicultural new Britain, then you sort of embrace festivals of the majority community there, as well as, Hindus and even, I'm sure he will even possibly be there at an Eid gathering in Britain. That's the new Britain. And the reality of that country at the moment. In India, on the other hand, that politics is changing. That was the old style politics where Indira Gandhi would make sure that she was seen in a temple and in a mosque and in a church. Under Narendra Modi, that has changed.
But these are personal choices.
These are personal choices as long as they don't interfere in your public functions. I think in your public functions, you've got to be clear. You've got to treat every citizen with equality. And I'm sure that message will be Rishi Sunak's message. He's worn his Hinduness on his sleeve from the day he arrived. His first statement was that he wanted to visit a temple. And there he is in Akshardham.
But the thing which will test him is his ability to get the economy back on rails.
That's
and
his
that's
challenge.
a tough one because time is against him. The second thing is, as Rajdeep very correctly said, the feeling that we rushed into Brexit without thinking of the consequences, that is increasing in Britain.
Yeah.
Because it is pinching the ordinary man. The price rise, the lack of jobs, the lack of export possibilities, because EU was its greatest market.
Absolutely. And in that sense, Boris Johnson is almost history now. Struggling both at the personal and political level. And that's how politics changes. I mean, 2 years ago, he was the flavor of the season. Then COVID happens. He struggles with it.
There is a potent message there. It takes a man of Indian origin to try and fix the mess in the British economy.
That's right. Because remember, between Johnson and Rishi Sunak, there was Liz Truss. And she was there barely for a couple of months and it was a disaster.
Yeah.